We're interrupting the show for a special report.
Because now it is time for Bag Lab.
Okay, so for today's bag lab, I wanted to talk about fussy cutting, piecing for a bag. So as you can see in Michelle's project, she fussy cut different strips of fabric in order to get the circles to line up so that the polka dots were not staggered or cut into. And this might also be helpful if you, for instance, are assembling a bag and would like the design to continue from the front of the bag perhaps to the side panel. So we're going to talk about that today, how to fussy cut these strips and piece them together. So I thought it would be best, first of all, I'm going to have Danny switch to the overhead camera. This technique can work great with prints such as these. Perhaps the part of the flower got cut off, but you want it to be continued, or maybe even you cut fabric for a bag wrong. Maybe you cut a piece the wrong size and you only have a little bit of fabric left and you have to piece two pieces together. This might be helpful for something like that as well. But for the demonstration tonight, I decided to go with the polka dots that were the same from the project that Michelle made, just because I feel like it's very obvious where the dots are and how to get them connected well. So I'm going to start off by taking my fabric pencil and I'm going to draw on the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm going to try to draw about through the center of the circles. Okay, so here's my line right here. I'm going to add my seam allowance, so you can either add 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch or 1/2 inch, whatever you're comfortable with as far as piecing. For this demonstration, I'm going to go with 3/8 of an inch, just so I have a little bit more fabric to work with. So I'm going to draw my second line right there, and I think I measured that wrong. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut at that second line. And you can certainly use your rotary cutter for this also. Okay, and if you happen to have a hair marker, I have a couple different ones. This is one of them. I'm going to actually take my hair marker and score on the line. You can also use, if you have a hot ruler will work as well. And I'm actually going to just fold that fabric back where I scored it or where the line is. And I'm going to use my iron and give it a press. Okay, so now I'm going to take out a bit of basting tape and I'm going to apply it on this little folded back edge where the seam allowance is. You can use whatever you have on hand. If you have Dritz Wash Away Wonder Tape, that will work as well. I'm going to take my fingernail and just kind of push it down on the corner of the paper, and the paper, it helps the paper kind of lift back so that I can reveal the second side of the adhesive. And then I'm going to flip this first fabric over and I'm going to place it how I would like it to look once it's sewn in place. So I'm going to do my best to line up the circles. And the reason I decided to use the basting tape instead of, say, a glue stick is so I could, if I needed to, reposition everything. Okay, so to me that looks pretty good. I'm certainly not a perfectionist, but from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty decent. Okay, so I'm going to flip this back down. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch directly on top of the line that I drew, which is also where I pressed the fabric toward the wrong side. And I'm just going to use my regular stitch length on my sewing machine. Okay, so when you've got it sewn in place, I'm just going to take my iron and give it another press. If you're happy with it, we'll go ahead and trim the seam allowance, and if you're not happy with how it lined up, you can certainly unpick and redo it. But now I'm going to flip that first fabric back down, and I'm going to go ahead and just trim the second fabric so that it's aligned with the first. And then that piece is finished. So again, this is great for fussy cutting. If you need to match different designs, and also if you run a little bit short of fabric and kind of want your design to be continuous across the seam. All right, Danny, we're going to get over to your picks of the month.